Before we begin, there's one thing you should know. Most missing persons cases follow a pattern. People disappear because of accidents, poor decisions, weather conditions, criminal activity. Eventually, investigators find an explanation. But every once in a while, a case appears that doesn't fit any category. A case built entirely from contradictions, one witness, no evidence, and a story so impossible that everyone involved wishes they had ignored it from the beginning. This is one of those stories. In October of 2025, emergency dispatchers in Montana received a call from a veteran truck driver. The call lasted less than 4 minutes. It wasn't frantic. There was no screaming, no sounds of violence. The caller sounded calm, confused, like a man trying to explain something he couldn't understand. He told dispatchers that he had just driven through a small American town, a normal town, with houses, streetlights, businesses, families walking outside, children riding bicycles beneath yellow streetlights, a diner serving customers, a gas station filled with parked cars. Everything looked exactly the way it should, except for one impossible detail. The town didn't exist. Not on Google Maps, not on government records, not on any satellite image. And when authorities eventually searched for it, they couldn't find it either. But according to the man who made that call, the town had been very real. And if what he said was true, someone else may have disappeared trying to prove it. The man's name was Ryan Mercer, 42 years old, a long-haul truck driver with nearly 20 years of experience. People who knew Ryan described him as practical, disciplined, the kind of man who trusted facts over feelings. He wasn't interested in ghost stories. He didn't believe in conspiracy theories. He believed in schedules, delivery routes, fuel receipts, and getting home on time. For almost 2 decades, his life had followed the same rhythm. Drive, unload, sleep, repeat. Thousands of miles, thousands of nights, and thousands of empty highways. He had seen blizzards, dust storms, accidents, road rage, even wild animals wandering across deserted roads. But nothing had prepared him for what happened on October 18th, 2025. Ryan had been transporting commercial freight through a remote section of Montana. The route wasn't unusual. He had driven it dozens of times before, maybe hundreds. He knew every fuel stop, every rest area, every dangerous curve hidden in the mountains. The highway stretched endlessly through wilderness. No cities, no major intersections, nothing except forest, mountains, and darkness. The farther he drove, the quieter the world became. Shortly after 11 o'clock, fog began rolling across the road. At first, it appeared in scattered patches. Then it thickened. Visibility dropped rapidly. Ryan eased his foot off the accelerator. His headlights bounced uselessly against a growing wall of gray. He adjusted his grip on the steering wheel. The familiar confidence he carried on every route began to fade. Because this fog didn't look normal. It moved strangely, almost deliberately, curling across the asphalt like smoke, swallowing everything behind it. The radio signal crackled, then disappeared entirely. Static. Silence. Ryan glanced toward his GPS. The screen flickered, then stabilized. He checked the route ahead. Nothing unusual. He kept driving. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The fog only grew thicker. Outside his windshield, the world ceased to exist. There was only road and gray. Then, he saw lights. At first, Ryan assumed another vehicle was approaching. He leaned forward, squinting through the fog, but something felt wrong. The lights weren't moving. They remained fixed, suspended in the darkness ahead. 1, then 3, then dozens. Streetlights. Ryan slowed his truck even further. His heartbeat quickened. He knew this highway. There were no towns for miles. Nothing should have been there. Yet the fog parted, and beneath those lights sat an entire town. Rows of houses, storefronts, parked cars, neatly maintained sidewalks. Everything looked ordinary, the kind of place people passed through without remembering its name. It wasn't abandoned. It wasn't ruined. It wasn't hidden beneath overgrowth. It looked alive. People moved along the sidewalks. Couples walked together. A man carried groceries. Children laughed while riding bicycles beneath glowing streetlights. The town appeared untouched, normal, safe. Ryan checked his mirrors, then looked back at the road ahead. The town remained. He glanced toward his GPS. Blank terrain. No roads, no buildings, no town. His navigation system insisted he was still driving through wilderness. Ryan looked back outside. A church steeple pierced the fog. A gas station stood beneath fluorescent lights. People entered and exited a grocery store. He checked the GPS again. Nothing. A cold sensation settled in his stomach. Because one of two things had to be true. Either the town wasn't there, or his own eyes couldn't be trusted. He parked near the curb, shut off the engine, and stared through the windshield. The silence inside the truck suddenly felt overwhelming. He considered turning around, driving away, pretending he'd never seen any of it. But curiosity has a way of overpowering common sense, especially when you're convinced there must be a logical explanation. Ryan stepped out of the truck. The cold night air hit him immediately. The town smelled real. Rain-soaked pavement, gasoline, fresh coffee drifting through the fog. He listened carefully. He heard laughter, conversations, distant music. Nothing about the place felt artificial. Except for one thing. He couldn't find a single sign telling him where he was. No welcome sign, no town name, no county marker, nothing. It was as if the town existed without wanting to be identified. Then his eyes settled on a diner across the street. A neon sign glowed above its entrance. Only one word illuminated the darkness. Open. No name, no logo, no explanation. Ryan hesitated, then crossed the street and stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed softly, and every sound inside the diner stopped. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Coffee cups paused in midair. Conversations ended instantly. Ryan stood motionless near the entrance. Around 20 people occupied the diner. Families, couples, workers wearing grease-stained uniforms, an elderly man reading a newspaper, a young mother comforting a child. Ordinary people. But now, every single one of them was staring directly at him. No one blinked. No one spoke. The silence stretched longer than it should have. 1 second. 3 seconds. 5. Ryan forced an awkward smile. Evening, he said. No one answered. Then, almost simultaneously, everyone returned to what they had been doing. Forks moved again, coffee cups lifted, conversations resumed, as though nothing had happened. Ryan slowly approached the counter. The uneasy feeling in his chest tightened. It wasn't fear. Not yet. It was something harder to explain. The sensation that he'd walked into a room full of people who had been expecting someone else. A waitress approached him. She appeared to be in her late 30s. Dark hair tied neatly behind her head, a clean white uniform, and a smile that looked practiced. "Passing through?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "Yeah," he replied. "I've driven this route 100 times." He glanced around. "I don't remember this town." For a brief moment, the waitress's smile faded. Something unreadable flashed across her face. Then it returned. "You wouldn't," she said softly. Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" The waitress looked toward the other customers, then back at him. "You should eat while you can," she said. Roads get difficult after dark. Ryan pulled out a chair, sat down, and studied the people around him. Because for the first time since entering the town, he realized something. No one in the diner had touched a phone. No one had car keys. No one mentioned anything beyond the town outside. And every now and then, he caught people glancing toward him, watching, waiting, as if they already knew something. He didn't. Ryan ordered coffee. Black, no sugar, no cream. Something normal, something familiar. The waitress placed the cup in front of him. The coffee was hot, fresh, real. Ryan wrapped both hands around the mug, trying to calm the uneasiness growing inside him. He listened carefully. The conversations around him had resumed. But the more he paid attention, the stranger they became. People talked about the weather, recipes, gardening, church events, normal topics. Yet every conversation felt incomplete, artificial, like actors improvising scenes without knowing the full script. He noticed an elderly couple sitting nearby. "How long have you lived here?" Ryan asked. The woman smiled. "All my life." "What county is this?" She hesitated, then looked toward her husband. Neither answered. Instead, the husband simply asked, "Where are you from?" Ryan frowned. "Montana." The old man nodded slowly. "As far as I know," he said quietly, "we all are." Ryan didn't understand what that meant. Before he could ask another question, the couple stood up and left. Their untouched meals remained on the table, as if they had never intended to finish them. Ryan looked around again. Nobody had touched a phone. Nobody checked the time. Nobody carried wallets. Nobody searched for keys. It was as if the outside world simply didn't exist here. He approached another customer. "What town is this?" he asked. The man answered immediately. "Pine Hollow." A few moments later, Ryan asked a woman near the window, "What town is this?" She blinked. Willow Creek. Different answer. Different confidence. Ryan asked again, this time a mechanic seated at the counter. What town is this? The mechanic looked confused, then replied, honestly, I don't remember. Ryan's stomach tightened. 3 people, 3 completely different answers. Nobody seemed bothered by it, as though forgetting the name of the place where you lived was perfectly normal. Then Ryan noticed the clocks. Every clock inside the diner showed the exact same time. 11:47 p.m., the wall clock, the kitchen clock, the small clock behind the cash register. None of them moved. He stared at the second hand. Nothing. 10 seconds passed. 20. Still frozen. Ryan slowly pulled out his phone. 2:14 a.m. His phone said one thing. The entire town said another. For the first time that night, fear began replacing curiosity. The fog outside had grown even thicker. Streetlights had become glowing circles suspended in white emptiness. Driving through it now felt impossible. Ryan considered leaving anyway, but exhaustion had begun settling into his bones. He hadn't slept properly in almost 18 hours. He decided to stay the night, just long enough for the fog to clear. The motel stood at the edge of town, small, old, 2 stories tall. The sign outside simply read, vacancy. No name, no logo, no address. The receptionist barely acknowledged him. An elderly woman slid a guest book across the counter. Ryan signed his name. She handed him an old brass key. Room 13. He forced a smile. Any chance of another room? The woman looked up. No. Her voice was flat, emotionless. It's the only one available. Ryan took the turned away. The receptionist spoke again. If you hear people outside tonight, she said quietly, don't open the door. Ryan stopped. What? But the woman had already returned to reading her magazine, as though she had never spoken at all. Room 13 looked ordinary. Faded wallpaper, a television, a small bathroom, a single bed. Nothing unusual. Ryan placed his overnight bag beside the dresser. He checked his phone. Still no signal, no internet, no missed notifications. It was as if the town existed completely disconnected from reality. He sat on the bed, trying to rationalize everything. Strange people, frozen clocks, no cell service. There had to be an explanation. Fatigue, isolation, stress. Eventually, he fell asleep. He woke to footsteps, slow, deliberate, outside his room. Ryan sat upright. The room was dark. His phone illuminated the bedside table. 2:03 a.m. The footsteps continued. 1 pair, then 2, then dozens. He moved quietly toward the window and pulled the curtain aside. His blood ran cold. The streets below were filled with people. Hundreds of them, men, women, children, walking silently beneath the streetlights. Nobody spoke. Nobody looked around. They moved together, step, 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 all heading toward the center of town, like sleepwalkers, like they had answered a call. Ryan couldn't hear. He remembered the receptionist's warning, don't open the door. Instead, he grabbed his phone and started recording. Ryan followed them from a distance, keeping to the shadows, trying not to be noticed. The entire town appeared to be moving in the same direction. Nobody questioned it. Nobody resisted. Nobody seemed afraid, as though this ritual had happened countless times before. The procession eventually stopped outside a large building, the biggest structure Ryan had seen since arriving. No signs, no windows, no identifying marks, just a massive building standing in silence. Rows formed naturally, perfectly. The townspeople stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the entrance, completely still. Ryan hid behind a nearby parked vehicle. His phone camera continued recording. Then, the doors opened. A brilliant white light spilled into the street. It wasn't warm, it wasn't welcoming, it felt sterile, artificial, almost surgical. Ryan shielded his eyes. He couldn't see what was inside, only light. The crowd remained motionless, waiting. Minutes passed. Then a voice emerged, distorted, mechanical, impossible to understand. The sound crackled through the air, neither male nor female, too low, too layered, as though multiple voices were speaking at once. Ryan couldn't understand a single word, but judging by the expressions around him, the residents could. Nobody reacted emotionally, nobody questioned it. They simply listened, patiently, obediently. Then, the voice stopped, the doors closed, the white light vanished. Without hesitation, the townspeople turned around and walked away, returning home as if nothing had happened. Ryan remained frozen behind the car, unable to process what he'd just witnessed. He looked down at the recording still running on his phone. His hands trembled slightly. because deep down, he already knew something terrifying. Whatever this town was, it wasn't normal. And whatever had happened inside that building, the people here had been doing it for a very long time. Ryan looked back toward the darkened entrance. The building stood silent beneath the fog, waiting. And for the first time since arriving, he wondered if leaving tomorrow morning would still be possible. Ryan didn't sleep for the rest of the night. He sat in the motel room with every light turned on. The recording from his phone replayed over and over again. The silent procession, the rows of residents, the blinding white light, the distorted voice. Each time he watched it, he noticed something different. The people never looked confused. They never hesitated. It wasn't fear, it was routine. As if whatever happened inside that building was simply part of life here. At sunrise, Ryan packed his belongings. He didn't care whether the fog had cleared. He was leaving. Immediately, he loaded his overnight bag into the truck. His hands moved faster than usual. His instincts were screaming at him. Get out. Don't ask questions. Don't look back. He climbed into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine roared to life. Relief washed over him. Then someone knocked on the driver's side window. Ryan nearly jumped. It was the waitress, the same woman from the diner, but she looked different. The practiced smile was gone. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. Her expression was filled with genuine fear. Ryan rolled the window down slightly. The waitress leaned closer. You're leaving? Ryan nodded. Yeah, you should. Her voice shook. You shouldn't have stayed this long. Ryan studied her face. What is this place? She looked over her shoulder, scanning the empty street as if someone might be listening. Then she whispered, If you remember this town, her voice trembled. Don't come back. Ryan frowned. What does that mean? Tears filled her eyes. People who come back, she whispered. Don't leave again. Ryan felt chills run through him. What happens to them? The waitress opened her mouth, then stopped. She stared beyond Ryan's shoulder, toward something behind him. Her face turned pale. Without another word, she stepped back, turned around, and hurried away. Ryan never saw her again. Those were the last words she ever spoke to him. Ryan drove away without hesitation. The truck accelerated through the thick fog. The town faded behind him. Streetlights disappeared. Buildings vanished. The church steeple dissolved into white emptiness. Then, nothing. Only highway, forest, mountains. 20 minutes later, Ryan reached a checkpoint outside a small service station. He stopped beside another truck driver. The man looked exhausted. He accepted Ryan's nervous greeting. You ever hear about a town around here? Ryan asked. What town? The one a few miles back. The driver stared at him. What are you talking about? Ryan pointed behind him. Small town, diner, motel, church. The driver's confusion deepened. There ain't been a town on this stretch of highway for over 80 miles. Ryan laughed nervously. Very funny. I'm serious. The other driver folded his arms. I've been driving this route for 12 years. Nothing's out there. Ryan's smile disappeared. He pulled out his phone, opened his GPS history. His route showed uninterrupted wilderness. No detours, no stops, no town, no motel, nothing. He checked again and again. Still nothing. The blood drained from his face. Because according to every piece of technology he had never left the highway. Ryan stepped away from the truck, dialed emergency services. When the dispatcher answered, he hesitated. How do you explain something impossible without sounding insane? This is gonna sound crazy, Ryan said, but I think I found a town that doesn't exist. At first, authorities assumed fatigue, sleep deprivation, stress, hallucinations. Ryan understood why. If someone else had told him the same story, he probably wouldn't have believed it either. But Ryan had evidence. Photographs, videos, audio recordings. Investigators reviewed everything. Every image showed buildings, roads, streetlights, residents, the diner, the motel, even the gathering. But something disturbed everyone involved. No identifying details existed, no addresses, no business names, no license plates, no town signs, nothing. It was as if the entire place had been designed to avoid leaving evidence behind. Then investigators examined Ryan's footage from the gathering. The results were impossible. The bright white light appeared clearly on video. The crowd appeared, the doors opened, the residents stood in rows, but the voice was missing. The audio track contained only silence. Ryan insisted he had heard it. He described the distorted sound repeatedly, but the recording captured nothing. Analysts ran enhancement software, audio restoration, noise recovery. Still nothing. Silence. One investigator later admitted it was like the camera remembered the event differently than Ryan did. Days later, search teams entered the exact area Ryan had identified. Helicopters, drones, ground crews, tracking dogs, search and rescue specialists. They found nothing. No roads, no buildings, no utility lines, no foundations, no tire marks, nothing. Ryan returned with investigators twice more. Each time, he pointed toward the same location. Each time, they found only forest. The case should have ended there. It should have been dismissed, filed away, forgotten. But then, other witnesses began coming forward, and everything changed. The first witness was a retired police officer from Idaho. He claimed he had encountered a similar town 15 years earlier. He remembered frozen clocks, a diner with no name, and residents who couldn't agree on where they lived. The second witness was a traveling nurse. She described a silent gathering beneath white light. When shown Ryan's photograph, she began crying. She recognized the building immediately. The third witness was a delivery driver from Arizona. He had seen the town in 2018, different state, different highway, same details, same fear. Then came campers, hitchhikers, night shift workers, people from completely different backgrounds. None of them knew each other. Yet every story contained the same impossible elements. No cell service, no internet, missing road signs, frozen clocks, residents giving contradictory answers, a gathering, a brilliant white light, and one final detail. Every witness remembered seeing a sentence somewhere inside the town. Some had seen it written on walls, others above doorways. One man swore it had appeared briefly on a television screen. The location changed, but the message never did. It always read, "You weren't supposed to find us." Investigators sat in silence, staring at dozens of witness statements spread across conference tables, because for the first time, they had to consider a possibility they didn't want to acknowledge. What if Ryan Mercer hadn't imagined any of it? What if the town was real? Months passed. News of the investigation slowly faded from public attention. The official explanation remained unchanged. Exhaustion, stress, a misunderstanding, an unfortunate combination of poor visibility and an overactive imagination. Ryan Mercer tried to return to normal life. He went back to work, back to highways, back to delivery schedules, but normal no longer existed. Because every night, he dreamed about the town. He dreamed of walking through fog-covered streets, of hearing distant footsteps, of frozen clocks displaying 11:47 p.m. And sometimes he dreamed of the waitress, standing beneath a flickering streetlight, repeating the same warning. If you remember this place, don't come back. Ryan stopped talking about the town publicly. He stopped giving interviews. He ignored requests from journalists. Even investigators noticed a change. Friends described him as distant, distracted, always looking over his shoulder. He began avoiding certain highways altogether, refusing night routes whenever possible. Then, nearly 3 months after the original investigation, authorities contacted Ryan one final time. There were still unanswered questions. New witness statements had surfaced. Investigators wanted one last interview. Ryan agreed. He was scheduled to arrive the following afternoon, but he never showed up. Ryan Mercer's truck was discovered abandoned beside a remote stretch of highway, hundreds of miles from where he was supposed to be. The engine was still running, its headlights remained on, his coffee sat untouched in the cup holder, still warm, his wallet remained inside, his overnight bag was untouched, his phone rested on the dashboard. Ryan himself was gone. Search teams arrived immediately. Tracking dogs searched the surrounding wilderness, helicopters scanned miles of forest, officers examined every inch of the area. No footprints, no blood, no signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, nothing. It was as though Ryan Mercer had simply stepped out of existence. Investigators expanded the search radius, then doubled it. Still nothing. Weeks passed, then months. No body was ever recovered, no suspects were identified, no explanation emerged. Eventually, the search was suspended. Officially, Ryan Mercer became another missing person. Unofficially, those familiar with his case feared something much worse, because Ryan had once said something during an interview, a sentence investigators dismissed at the time. If that town is real, I don't think it lets people leave forever. While cataloging evidence from Ryan's truck, investigators discovered something unusual. A new video file had appeared on his phone. Nobody remembered seeing it before. Metadata showed it had been created shortly before Ryan disappeared. Yet no one knew who recorded it. The clip lasted exactly 12 seconds. At first, the screen showed nothing. Only darkness, then static, then thick white fog. Slowly, streetlights emerged from the mist, one after another. The camera moved forward, steadily, as though someone were walking down an empty road, a familiar road. Investigators immediately recognized it. Even before the buildings appeared, the diner, the church, the gas station, the same impossible town. The camera continued moving, closer, closer, toward the entrance, toward a weathered wooden sign standing beside the road. For the first time, the town's name was almost visible. Investigators leaned closer to their screens, trying desperately to read it. The footage distorted. Static flooded the image. Most of the sign became unreadable. Letters twisted and disappeared beneath waves of interference. Then, for less than a second, the static cleared. Just enough, not long enough to reveal the town's name, but long enough to reveal the line printed beneath it. 3 words. Perfectly clear. Population. The video ended immediately afterward. No further footage existed. No explanation was ever provided. To this day, nobody knows what happened to Ryan Mercer. No town matching his description has ever been located. No official records acknowledge its existence. No maps identify it. No satellite images reveal it. And yet, reports continue to surface. Truck drivers, travelers, campers, people lost on lonely highways late at night, all describing the same impossible place. A town that appears without warning. A town hidden somewhere beyond the fog. A town you can never find again. Most witnesses remember different details. Different buildings, different roads, different names, but one detail never changes. The frozen clocks, 11:47 p.m., and the sign, the weathered sign standing at the edge of town, the one displaying a message nobody has been able to explain. Population 1. Investigators have debated its meaning for years. Did the town only have one resident? Did every visitor become that resident? Was Ryan Mercer the one? Or had someone else been waiting there all along? No one knows. But if you ever find yourself driving alone late at night, and dense fog begins swallowing the road ahead, and streetlights appear where no town should exist, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't ask questions. And whatever you do, if someone inside that town tells you not to come back, listen to them. Because according to the stories, the town doesn't forget the people who find it. And eventually, it asks them to return. Some places are lost, others are hidden, and some are waiting to be found. So before you scroll away, tell us your theory. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Dark Stories Zone for more mysterious, unsettling, and unexplained horror stories. And tell us in the comments, what do you think Population 1 really means? And if you were driving alone, would you stop?